Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our special lecture on the ROK-UK Strategic Partnership for the Future. My name is John Nilsson-Wright. I'm the head of the Japan and Korea's program at the Centre of Geopolitics. I'm also an associate professor at the Faculty of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. And those two institutions are the co-organisers of this very important event that we're delighted to be able to host here at Darwin College. I should also point out that today's lecture is part of a year-long Korea Foundation supported initiative, a project on alliances and alignment, which is exploring the nature of alliance politics in general, but also very specifically looking at the role of South Korea as a foreign policy actor, both in East Asia and further afield as a global actor. Before I introduce our distinguished speaker and the topic for today, allow me to say first a few words of thanks, and also to introduce some of the group who are also accompanying Dr. Park for this lecture. We're joined by President Kim Gi-won, the head of the Korea Foundation, and he's brought with him a very substantial delegation. Over the years, I think I have to acknowledge in a very heartfelt way the support that the Korea Foundation has given to Cambridge University and specifically to the Faculty of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies. It's really enabled our work on Korea to become more firmly established, and we hope, of course, that it will continue to flourish and develop in the future. With that in mind, I'd also like to pay thanks to my colleague, Dr. Nuri Kim, who's at the back of the room. Dr. Kim is an intellectual historian of Korea, and he is the holder of the post that the Korea Foundation established many years ago. So, Nuri, we remain very grateful for all the work that you're doing, spearheading our undergraduate and graduate programs in Korean studies. I mentioned also the work of the Centre for Geopolitics, and we're joined here today by Professor Brendan Sims, who is the director of the centre, and somewhere my faculty colleague, Bill Hurst, who has been also involved very much in this project. I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome again to Ambassador Yun, who is no stranger to Cambridge and has visited Darwin on a number of occasions with other distinguished Korean visitors. Ambassador Yun, thank you again for all your support, for your personal friendship, and for all of your advice. Last but not least, may I also extend a warm welcome both to Cambridge and to Darwin, if I may, to Dr. Hyo Tae-gyun, who's the former Defence Minister for Defence Policy, who's part of the delegation. And I won't ask her to stand up, but Dr. Park's wife, Ms. Cho Yun-hee, is also here, and so we're very glad to have you here. So in terms of our topic for today, I suppose it's fair to say that it's very timely in terms of what the UK is doing in the Indo-Pacific, what South Korea has been doing as a global actor. You'll be aware that the Prince of Wales aircraft carrier strike force departed on Tuesday to the Indo-Pacific for an 8th-month deployment. I think that's a measure of how much Britain is committed to the idea of consolidating and supporting security in the region. And the United Kingdom government has emphasised, of course, through its commitment to an increased level of defence spending, just how important it is to think in terms about bilateral security cooperation. And as our Defence Secretary John Healey has noted, the idea that the Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic regions are indivisible. They remain a priority for our government. And of course, it's in that context that we've seen a big increase and consolidation of bilateral ties between the two countries. The state visit to the UK in November of 2023, out of which came the very important Downing Street Accord, which I'm sure Dr. Park will be referring to, but it represents a real step change, I think, in bilateral cooperation. And it has to be said, of course, that in all of this, Korea is unambiguously a global actor. It was the foreign policy of the current administration to emphasize Korea's role as a so-called global pivotal state with its own ambitious Indo-Pacific strategy. And we saw, of course, in August of 2023, a very clear commitment by both South Korea, Japan and the United States through the Camp David Agreement to a much more active trilateral partnership. And all of that, of course, is so important given the nature of the challenges that our two countries face, whether it's the persistent existential challenge of North Korea as a nuclear actor, concerns, in fact, that have been raised by the current acting President, Han Duck-soo, who just a few weeks ago talked about the risk of conflict in the West Sea, risks of perhaps North Korea taking provocative action. If that weren't enough, of course, in the aftermath of the inauguration of the Trump administration, our two countries are facing all of the challenges of the global international trading system being upturned and all of those precedents reassessed. And in fact, just this week, we've had both the South Korean delegation in Washington and today, in fact, I think our Chancellor will be meeting with Scott Bessent, the US Trade Secretary, to talk about those tariff issues. So it's clear that we share very common problems when it comes to trade and security. And of course, the larger question of values, the competition between democratic and authoritarian regimes. And I think it's worth emphasizing how much has been achieved by Korea in recent weeks. The ruling of the Constitutional Court, the decision to reach, if you like, a resolution of what has been a difficult few months. And I've been struck by the willingness of people on both sides of the political aisle to come together. It represents, I think, a reaffirmation of South Korea's commitment to those democratic norms. And looking ahead to the future, in May we will see South Korea hosting the APEC summit in Gyeongju. And of course there will be a presidential election on June the 3rd in South Korea, which will be a source of continuing interest. So to make sense of all of that and to provide a historical perspective and to look forward, it's hard to think of a better and more qualified speaker than Dr. Park Jin, former Foreign Minister of South Korea, the country's 40th Foreign Minister, 4 times a member of the National Assembly, who early on in his career served in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He has a wealth of academic experience, and I won't be able to do justice to that in my opening remarks, but just to mention a few highlights. He was a Japan Foundation Fellow at Tokyo University. He took a master's degree at Harvard University. He studied, I'm afraid, at the other place, at Oxford. Well, I'm not too apologetic since it was my own alma mater, St. Anthony's. In fact, coincidentally, we both studied with the same professor. So from a personal point of view, it's particularly nice to welcome you here, Dr. Park. And it's perhaps not frequently commentated on that Dr. Park did his DPhil in Japanese politics and in fact taught for a while at the University of Newcastle as a lecturer. So yes, amongst your many languages, Geordie is probably the one we would least have expected, but thank you for highlighting that. So Dr. Park's familiarity with foreign affairs is clear from his very impressive CV. But of course, it's not just academic. In his political career, he was chairman, for example, of the Global Diplomacy and Security Forum of the National Assembly. And so with all of that experience, both in the academic world and in the policy world, he is really uniquely placed to present today's lecture. So without further ado, Dr. Park, the floor is yours, and welcome.
Thank you. So good morning, I'm Park Jin. I'm very delighted to be here at world's famous Cambridge University. And thank you for your generous introduction. It is my special privilege to be here as a person with Oxford education to be at the rival university. And I must congratulate you first for consecutively winning the boat race on the Thames River. I asked actually chatbot yesterday why Cambridge is winning over Oxford all the time in boat race. and AI came out with 3 answers. First, superior team cohesion and technique, scientific. And 2, depth in athletic recruitment and training. Sounds very reasonable. 3, I think the most important thing, strong psychological motivation and institutional momentum. Okay, so I couldn't wait to ask AI, so how can Oxford turn the tide over? And it came out with 3 recommendations. First, reinforce recruitment and athlete development. 2, upgrade scientific coaching and race analytics. Specifically, it mentioned biomechanics, telemetry, psychological data tracking into daily training. Obviously, Cambridge is the center of science and technology, I can see. And number 3, foster a winning culture, not losing culture, and mental edge. So that is, I think, is a good advice from the AI, but looks like it's a very challenging task for Oxford. But anyway, I congratulate you for your indomitable spirit and consecutive victories on the Thames River. I'm especially grateful to my good friend, John Nielsen Wright, for his kind invitation to Cambridge University. We studied together in the same college, St. Anthony's College, at different times, and we have the same supervisor. So we are like 2 kung fu fighting martial artists from Shaolin Temple in Oxford. So I've always been interested in what John is doing in England, also in Korea. He has many friends in Korea and Japan, and we appreciate his academic contribution to the Korea's globalization and also our foreign relationship. Now, I have prepared some PPT for you to appreciate during my talk. So let me see if I can synchronize my talk with the visual screen there. Now, this screen was 2023 Ambassador Yoon at his residence, where current and former ambassadors, British ambassadors to Republic of Korea got together. You see Warwick Morris, Ambassador Warwick Morris on the right. And we were celebrating 140th anniversary of Korea-Britain diplomatic relationship. And the document you can see in the middle, in front, is the very document that the 2 countries signed back in 1883 between Joseon Dynasty and Britain. So it's a very historic document. I think it's a replica, isn't it? Yeah, the original is well kept somewhere, but this is a replica. 140 years of diplomatic relationship. Now, you all know 10 Downing Street, which is the official residence of the British Prime Minister. I've been to 10 Downing Street maybe 6 or 7 times. It's always the same, very small room, sit down, very comfortable conversation. The first Prime Minister I met was, I think was John Major, and then Tony Blair, and Sunak, the Prime Minister Sunak, and Elizabeth Truss, very briefly. You have a very quick turnover in the Prime Ministership. And the current Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, before he took the office, when he was an opposition leader. So I've met, and also Boris Johnson, who is from Oxford, by the way. Downing 10 is a very important symbol of British politics and global relationship of UK. So we put the name in 2023, Downing Street Accord, which would deepen our collaboration across security and defense, science and technology, of course, and prosperity and trade, and energy security for sustainability and economic security. I think it was a significant milestone in our bilateral relationship between Korea and Britain. So based on this Downing Street Accord, the two countries have agreed to deepen, expand, and upgrade our existing bilateral partnership. So first is economy. I have 4 subjects today: economy, security, and technology, and culture, of course. The economic bond between the two Koreas is, I think, stronger than ever. We have concluded free-trade agreement between Korea and the UK to forge a dynamic and strategic economic partnership. I myself have been involved in the negotiation between the two countries as a member of parliament in the Committee on Foreign Affairs and Trade and Unification in the Korean National Assembly. The agreement was effectuated in January 2021 here. And this was 2 years ago when two sides almost agreed on the contents of the agreement, FTA, between the two countries. And it was adapted from Korea-EU FTA, kind of a bigger framework was from Korea-EU FTA, and it was somehow synchronized with the Brexit, the effectuation of the Brexit. So for Great Britain, it was a very important and significant time schedule, the Brexit and the upgrading of relationship with Republic of Korea. Two nations have steadily expanded our cooperation in key sectors ranging from manufacturing and services to energy and advanced technology. Now, trade and goods and services continue to be the foundation of our bilateral engagement. Korea exports to the United Kingdom our staple products, automobiles, particularly from Hyundai and Kia, along with semiconductors, electric goods, batteries, and vessels. In return, UK supplies Korea with pharmaceuticals, aircraft engines, such as Rolls-Royce engine for our fighters, consumer goods, luxury consumer goods, and industrial machinery. So the two economies are very complementary with each other, and it creates great synergy in the trade of goods and services between the two countries. British companies such as AstraZeneca, GlaxoSmithKline, and Rolls-Royce have established long-term partnership with Korean entities, particularly in the life sciences and aerospace sectors. In the financial services sector, major UK firms include HSBC, Standard Chartered, and the Prudential. They have maintained significant presence in Korea. An area of particularly rapid development is being made is a green economy, the environmentally friendly industry, where both countries are aligning their strategies to address climate change and achieve net zero emissions. Digital innovation and technological cooperation from another pillar of the emerging bilateral relationship. Now, Korea is home to global tech giants like Samsung Electronics and LG, and the UK is a hub for AI, artificial intelligence, like the one that I asked today about the boat race between Cambridge and Oxford. In quantum technology, digital finance, which are natural partners in the digital era. So Britain has certainly advantages and experience, expertise in these areas. So cooperation between institutions such as KAIST, where I'm teaching science diplomacy now, and DGIST in Daegu, and also Seoul National University or PostTech, and the leading British universities, Cambridge, Oxford, and the Imperial College London, illustrates the depths of our academic and research linkage. Both governments are exploring policies to promote joint development in artificial intelligence, semiconductor supply chains, cyber security, and cross-border digital trade. So at the corporate level, leading Korean companies like Samsung, LG, SK Energy, GS Caltex, and Hyundai and Kia have made notable inroads into UK through manufacturing, R&D, and green energy investment. Meanwhile, British companies have increased their presence in Korea's growing market in the areas of bio, pharmaceutical, aerospace, and clean energy markets. So this reciprocal investment pattern reflects a shared commitment to innovation and mutual prosperity. So, in light of this synergy, two countries have begun discussions on how to modernize, upgrade the bilateral FTA. We try to aim to create a more future-oriented framework. So among the proposed amendments to modernize our FTA include new provisions on digital trade, facilitating data flows, e-commerce, and online services, as well as strengthened language on sustainability and climate cooperation. So in conclusion, in the area of economy, Korea and the UK economic partnership is entering a new phase. And it is marked by a convergence of strategic interest, technological ambition, and global responsibilities. So we are truly great partners and friends between the two countries being emerging. As both countries navigate an increasingly complex international environment, our deepening cooperation in trade, investment, and innovation stands as a testament to the strengths of our bilateral partnership and also the shared vision for a more sustainable, more inclusive, and interconnected world. Now, security. You may all know that United Kingdom sent young men and women 75 years ago to Korea when the Korean War erupted. Over 80,000 British troops fought for Korea during the war. Many of them never returned. Many of them are still buried in the UN Peace Cemetery in Busan. So we remember their noble sacrifice. All the Koreans very well understand the British noble sacrifice made in the Korean War. And this picture shows the glorious Gloucester Regiment, the greatest battle, when 650 Gloucesters were up against 10,000 Chinese soldiers. I think many of them were sacrificed somehow. They never returned home. Since then, the UK has continuously supported Korea's efforts to maintain peace and security on the Korean Peninsula and the peace process on our country. I don't know how many of you have been to this important historical site on Thames River and the embankment. There is a Korean War memorial, like this. And it is a symbol of our blood-tied partnership between Korea and Britain for peace and democracy for the Republic of Korea. We'll never forget that. And this is a strong foundation upon which Korea and Britain should go hand in hand into the future to contribute to freedom, peace, and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific and beyond in the world. Britain is a NATO member and UN Security Council permanent member. Now, Korea is also member of the UN Security Council, but not permanent. So in the United Nations, Korea and Britain are working very closely with each other on a daily basis. And when I was Minister of Foreign Affairs, I always interacted with the British Foreign Minister, James Cleverly, David Cameron, to discuss global issues and how we can set our positions to deal with the global challenges together. And I think that that partnership stemmed from the Korean War, the British contribution to Korean peace and security. The UK has consistently showed interest in the stability on the Korean Peninsula. You're maintaining 2 embassies in Pyongyang and Seoul, so you know what is going on the Korean Peninsula on a daily basis. And we cooperate through various military and diplomatic channels. Today, we face a different kind of war against nuclear threats, against cyber threats, and the erosion of human rights. North Korea's nuclear proliferation is a serious threat, not only to the Republic of Korea, but to our neighbors, Japan, United States, to the United Kingdom, and European countries. And missile tests, missile provocations. Every year, North Korea is trying to threaten, scare, and endanger the environment, the security environment in the region, and also against the global stability, jeopardizing peace and security. North Korea's advancement in nuclear and missile capabilities certainly poses a grave and growing threat, from solid fuel ICBM to tactical nuclear weapons. Pyongyang regime is increasingly asserting its military leverage. Now, with the return of Donald Trump as President of the United States, would there be another diplomatic encounter between the 2 leaders of the United States and North Korea? I think it's in everyone's mind, and everyone's guess. The renewed Trump-Kim diplomacy, I think, if it takes place, should be substantiated by verifiable denuclearization commitments, so that it does not weaken deterrence on the Korean Peninsula. Now, the 2 leaders met 3 times before, once in Singapore, once in Hanoi, Vietnam, and in the Panmunjom demilitarized zone. And obviously they discussed the mutual concern, denuclearization, opening and reform of North Korea, lifting up sanctions maybe, and the future course for North Korea. Because everyone knows that North Korea as the economy has failed, and also people are starving and diplomatically isolated. But spending this enormous amount of financial means, squandering scarce resources for weapons of mass destruction, which is not rational, which is irrational, which is irresponsible, and I think it's immoral when people are starving to spend the resources for this military proliferation of weapons, nuclear weapons, and missiles. So we should stop North Korea from doing this and provide them with a better opportunity for the better future. And that cannot be done by Korea alone. it requires international support and concerted efforts with the countries like United Kingdom, which has serious concern about the security situation on the Korean Peninsula and also has contributed significantly to the peace and stability there. And at the same time, we all know the war is going on here in Europe, which continues to reshape the geopolitical landscape and global strategic landscape in Europe. North Korea's growing military cooperation with Russia is also amplifying this danger and the threat on both sides, Europe and Asia at the same time, including the transfer of munitions to Russia and tactical arms, including missiles. Not to mention the dispatch of reportedly more than 14,000 North Korean troops to Russia to fight against Ukraine soldiers. This has raised alarms in both Europe and Asia, and there is a rising possibility that Russia could in return provide to North Korea, because they are demanding this technology transfer from Russia, perhaps in the areas of military satellite or the ICBM re-entry technology, and maybe nuclear-powered submarine technology, or advanced fighter jets from Russia, in addition to their hypersonic missiles, which they tested early this year. So all of these are presenting an array of security challenges, not only to Europe, but also to Asia at the same time. So ironically, North Korea is making our security partnership between Korea and UK, between Asia and Europe, closer, at a time when the second Trump administration is making an impact based on America First policy and some kind of isolationist security foreign policy towards the outside. So we are faced with both challenges and opportunities, especially between Korea and UK as well. Now, as we go beyond these weapons, there is even more serious issue, which is directly linked to the nature of North Korean regime, which is human rights. I think those are the military provocations and the human rights issue are the two sides of the same coin. Korea has been raising this issue continuously, consistently in the international arena, including the United Nations, G7, G20, APEC, ASEAN Regional Forum, and so on. And we have tried to support the North Korean defectors. Now, by the Korean Constitution, when the people defect from North Korea and try to search for freedom and life, they are our own citizens by our own Constitution. So we should discharge our duties and rights to protect the North Korean defectors in their journey towards life and freedom. Korea and the United Kingdom, we share common values, freedom, human rights, and democracy, and rule of law. So we have worked closely on North Korean human rights issues. We commemorated the 10th anniversary of the COI, the Committee of Inquiry by the United Nations, several years ago, and the British senior political leader, Lord Elton, visited Korea, and together we sat down and discussed how Korea and UK can get together and cooperate in order to promote the human rights situation in the North. United Kingdom also actively has supported UN Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in North Korea. Now, these are North Korean soldiers who were captured by the Ukrainians. And they had an interview with the Korean media. And they said that they knew that they were being sent to a training camp, not a real war, in Russia for some kind of a advanced military training, which was fake, deceived, and they were put into the front line. And they were lucky because they could save their lives when their fellow soldiers were killed by the Ukrainian drones. They were defenseless against this modern warfare with drones. But now, North Koreans have experienced this battlefield situation, and they have now upgraded their military capabilities to fight against drones based on their new military strategies and tactics. So this war in Ukraine, this war in Europe, is actually enhancing North Korean military capability in return for their sacrifices being made in favor of Russia. And of course, as I mentioned, Russia may be demanded to give some sensitive military technology to North Korea. So that is happening right now. So our journalist asked him, so what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? He said, maybe we have to consider that on return, we would be in a very dangerous situation, because the direction to them was that before even being captured, you should commit suicide instead of being captured. But they're alive. So when they go back, they would have to explain why they are alive, not being dead. So they said, maybe we can go somewhere else, including South Korea. I think that they should come to the Republic of Korea. And they said, we want to study in college. But they are very concerned about the well-being of their families in the north, that if they make this decision. So, very helpless people. They were sent to the war without knowing it, without being directed, and they were asked to commit suicide before being captured. So what kind of regime is this? As I mentioned, it's not just irrational, irresponsible, but it's immoral regime, killing their own people for regime survival in Pyongyang. So I think Korea and the United Kingdom should step up our joint efforts to improve human rights situation in the north and also in the diplomatic arena like the United Nations, to protect refugees from North Korea who try to escape from their own regime. Now, beyond North Korea, the hunger crisis grips North Korean children as the food runs short. And this is Miss Elizabeth Salmon, who is a special rapporteur on North Korean human rights in the United Nations, who visited Korea, and we discussed how to provide support for the North Korean defectors. There's a Lord Elton who participated in our conference in 2023, I think was September, to review the efforts being made and also to think about the future strategies to enhance our efforts to provide support to the North. Now, beyond North Korea, our two countries have been discussing strategic cooperation for a free and open Indo-Pacific, as I can see in the banner made by Center for Geopolitics. Indo-Pacific, it's a very important area, not only for Korea, but also to the UK as well. And yes, our cooperation even reaches the oceans. The visit of Her Majesty ship Queen Elizabeth II aircraft carrier to Busan in August 2021 was not just impressive, it was inspiring. As a former Navy officer of the Republic of Korea, I was very happy, delighted to get on board of the aircraft of Queen Elizabeth II as the honorary commander of the British Empire. I was really honored by the captains and the aircraft carrier frigate leaders to be briefed on the situation as the Queen Elizabeth II, the aircraft carrier, perceives the security environment in the region and discuss how we can go about the joint training and exercise, including the exchange of information on the security situation. So United Kingdom is actually physically and mentally, militarily contributing to the security environment around the Korean Peninsula. So we can align to promote institutional stability, consistency, and support democratic coalition building in the Indo-Pacific through our respective Indo-Pacific strategies. The Korean principle of this Indo-Pacific strategy is inclusiveness. We do not want to exclude or alienate any one country on the condition that the rules-based international order is respected and complied to. I told my Chinese counterpart that we want to have a mutually beneficial relationship with China based on mutual respect. China should respect Korea's national sovereignty, territorial integrity, and cultural identity, which is very important. Only through that arrangement we can maintain stable relationship with China. The most important thing is for China to respect and comply to the norms-based, rules-based international order. Now, okay, this is when we announced our Indo-Pacific strategy in December 22 to the world by inviting all the diplomatic emissaries stationed in Korea. Now, technology. When it comes to science and technology, Korea and the UK are two brains sparking one future. At the heart of this effort, I think, is Cambridge, home to some of the greatest scientific minds in human history. You have Alan Turing, the father of AI, Stephen Hawking, who revolutionized our understanding of space and time, Paul Dirac, a quantum physicist, Professor Sir Gregory Winter in synthetic biology, and not to mention Sir Isaac Newton, the single most important figure in the scientific revolution. Do you still have the tree where the apple fell? You know where it was? Korea and the UK are now strategic partners in areas including artificial intelligence, semiconductors, civil nuclear power, renewable energy, and cyber security. Now, you may all remember in 2016, which was already 9 years ago, when Mr. Demis Hassabis, he was working for AlphaGo, visiting Korea, and played Go with our high-level, the world-class Go player Lee Se-dol. They had 5 rounds of games between man and the machine. And Lee Se-dol lost by 4-1. That was the last human victory against artificial intelligence. At that time, artificial intelligence was not as high as now. And Lee Se-dol was agonizing over how this machine can detect my strategy so fast and act so rapidly, so he didn't give any time to think over. So he was agonizing. I felt very sad, but he won one game. To my relief. I think that was the most amazing historic game really in history. But now, artificial intelligence is perhaps 100 times, 1,000 times stronger than in 2016. And we are talking about artificial general intelligence, AGI, which is smarter than the smartest human being. Say in 5 or 10 years of time, they say, can be made. So we are living in a very revolutionary age now. This book, The Age of AI, was written by Henry Kissinger and Eric Schmidt and Daniel Huttenlocher, the MIT scientist, predicting that AI age will bring two different situations to the human being, benefits and risk. Certainly this is beneficial for human being because machine can do whatever the human being has done. Secretarial support, the household things, and the calculation, the business management, strategic directions, and communication, healthcare management, even space exploration, everything. But then, if it becomes too clever and smarter and try to run the system itself before human beings make decision, what would happen? Especially in the military domain, if the artificial intelligence can fight war against each other without human interference, and even control the nuclear weapons, that would be disastrous. Therefore, this book argued, just before Henry Kissinger passed away, we have to prepare for it. We have to make sure that there are ethical guidelines and social guardrails, policy guardrails to put the AI under control, not being controlled. If human beings do not want to be controlled, we should control the AI, despite its rapid technological quantum jump. So I think it was a really very important clarion call from the foreign policy expert and the scientist and the big tech entrepreneur, all together saying the same thing. This is good, but be careful. And we have to be ready to put them under control. So Korea and the United Kingdom should work together to provide the ethical, social guidelines and international norms, especially in the military domain, to regulate the technological expansion. Korea and UK participated in the AI summit together, and also Korea and the Netherlands joint hosted the REAIM, Responsible Use of AI in the Military Domain. So these are the international arena where Korea and UK can initiate, spearhead, and provide the sense of direction and the good recommendations through policy dialogue, collaborative academic partnership, and engagement in pioneering ideas. Now, one of the most significant examples of Korea-UK artificial intelligence cooperation is a strategic partnership between the KAIST and the University of Cambridge. The alliance connects two of the world's leading science and engineering institutions in a mission to develop trustworthy AI system. Beyond academia, Korea and UK have strengthened our governmental engagement through UK-Korea science and technology dialogue, particularly around the governance and regulation of AI. So our Ministry of Science and ICT and your Department of Science, Innovation and Technology have held regular consultations to align on such issues as AI, ethics, algorithmic transparency, data privacy, and international standardization. And these dialogues represent a shared commitment to shaping the global AI environment in a way that is open, human-centric, and accountable. The Korea-UK partnership in AI exemplifies, therefore, how bilateral science diplomacy can drive both innovation and global stewardship. And I'm absolutely committed to the idea that Korea should upgrade our science diplomacy in the future, especially together with the United Kingdom. So as both countries continue to modernize our economic agreements and deepen digital cooperation, AI will remain a central pillar, linking not only research and industry, but also ethics, governance, and human progress. Now, Horizon Europe. Korea has joined this program as an associate member for the first time from this year, which means that Korean technological partnership with Europe will be heightened. And the Korean researchers with great ideas, innovative ideas, can apply for funding, research funding, and joint research with the European counterpart through Horizon Europe. And as I said, Korea to join Horizon Europe program from this year as an associate member. So this is where the new history is being made. In nuclear technology, Korea's development of small modular reactors, we call it SMRs, is drawing attention from the UK and also other countries too. Now we know that AI data center demands huge electric power to run these centers. And these small modular reactors, nuclear reactors, could be a good solution to the problem. Much less risky, but also efficient, economical, and provides optimum amount of energy to the data center. So Korean and British scientists should work together in this area and also invest significantly to decarbonize the energy future in the world. So from artificial intelligence to outer space, from genes to atoms, our collaboration is not just scientific, it's civilizational. Now, culture. Let me talk about something that you might be interested in. Korea and Britain are cultural superpowers. Did you know that? His Majesty King Charles III remarked it. He said in a state dinner at the banquet, His Majesty came out and said, we are cultural superpowers because Korea and Britain have both artistic creativity and technological creativity at the same time. He said there are not many countries like this. So Korea and Britain should be proud of our own traditional art and culture and our science and technology. We have the dynamic energy. Korea is enhancing its global soft power through K-culture as a national brand. The UK has maintained its status as a cultural powerhouse, Cool Britain, using popular culture and the creative industries to protect its national image. I used to like Culture Club, the music, amazing music. And as I said, His Majesty King Charles III mentioned in his state banquet welcome speech to the Korean government delegation in the Buckingham Palace in November 23, when Korean global idol group Blackpink participated. Everyone was looking at Blackpink. His Majesty mentioned that Korea has matched Danny Boyle with Bong Joon-ho, the movie directors, James Bond with the Squid Game, and the Beatles Let It Be with BTS Dynamite. That was an amazing speech. I really loved the speech. He also remarked that our cultures, and I quote from the King, our cultures share a remarkable ability to captivate imaginations across the world, transforming a so-called soft power into a shared superpower. I think it was a really great statement coming from the monarch in Britain. I learned English through the lyrics of Let It Be, Imagine, and Hey Jude from the Beatles. When I was a junior high school student, I really memorized all the lyrics of the Beatles. That was the best way for me to learn English. I still remember all the lyrics. Beatles songs was my grammar books. Today, British young people are learning Korean through BTS Fake Love and Dynamite. K-drama, K-cinema, K-literature are now part of the British mainstream. And I was in London yesterday, and sitting in the bus, I could see so many Korean restaurants, Oseo, ramen house, and kimbap house, the seaweed rice cake. And I was really surprised that when I arrived in Oxford in 1985, 40 years ago, when I was refreshingly young, people asked me, where are you from? China or Japan? Of course, I'm from Korea. Oh, sorry, North or South? Of course, I'm from South Korea, Republic of Korea. Oh, nice to meet you. That was 40 years ago. Now, I come to London and meet with the people in a bank or in the pub. They just look at me. Ah, you're Korean. 안녕하세요. 감사합니다. That was an amazing change. In the area of literature, the Man Booker Prize and Nobel Literature Prize awarded to the novelist Han Kang were possible thanks to Cambridge graduate, I think, Deborah Smith, who is now at the SOAS in London, who didn't just translate words, but soul. She did it. Classical music is another area of artistic cultural exchange between the two countries. I know this because my wife, violinist, led the Korean Chamber Orchestra performance at the Royal Philharmonic Hall several years ago. And so many classical music exchanges are occurring now between Korea and Britain. The growing international presence of Korean classical musicians promotes global appreciation of modern Korean compositions, fostering a deeper artistic exchanges in classical interpretations between the two countries. Film and drama, they are being co-produced and co-developed between Korea and Britain. The Busan International Film Festival and the BFI London Film Festival have strengthened our formal partnership with Korean films featured in the London Festival. Korean dramas like The Glory, DP, and Extraordinary Attorney Woo Young-woo have gained popularity in the UK. I met one British student several years ago who came to Korea, and I met her. She was teaching English to the Korean middle school students. And I said, why did you choose Korea to come? And said, because of Extraordinary Attorney Woo Young-woo. So I said, oh, she talks very fast. So how did you like the drama? He said, the interpretation, translation was superb. And she said, her parents are all lawyers, the father and mother. The three of them all watched the Extraordinary Woo Young-woo every day. Yeah, so I was really impressed. So by combining Korea's creative storytelling with the UK's production expertise and global distribution networks, we can enhance our competitiveness, global competitiveness. Everything when it comes to UK becomes magic. Opera, musical, film, drama, singing, and everything. Now, you may know 흑백 요리사, black and white chef, and Roses Apart, and 오징어 game too. They're so popular in Korea and also in UK, I suppose. Now, in visual arts, exhibition exchanges are occurring in many areas, which have been also very robust. And of course, sports. Football. Park Ji-sung, when he joined Manchester United, the English press called him Three Lung Park. Has 3 lungs? Not 2, but 3 lungs, because of his incredible stamina. The same Park with me, like Park. Sir Alex Ferguson once said, Park Ji-sung is a player that never stops running. He's like a little dynamo. And now we have unstoppable Son Heung-min, captain of the Tottenham Hotspur, and of course, Korean national team. He's not just fast, he's joyful. He doesn't celebrate a goal, he celebrates life. Unfortunately, he has a foot injury, so he couldn't participate in the Europa football, and Tottenham lost 2 games. But I hope that he can make a quick recovery and come back and bring a wonderful, inspiring goal to be made in the next games. I would like to wind up my talk with something to eat. K-food. The global attraction of K-food is not an exception in Britain. As I mentioned briefly, interest in Korean fermented foods, sauces, and ready-to-eat meals is growing rapidly in the UK. The broadcast of the Korean television drama Extraordinary Attorney Woo Young-woo has significantly heightened the global interest in Korean kimbap, the seaweed rice rolls, because she always eats kimbap in the office. Following the global successes of the Squid Game, sales of Korean products like gochujang, red chili paste, and Korean-style barbecue sauces have surged. This is what every Korean mother inherits down to your daughter-in-law. When you get married, the taste of our house gochujang is like this. Maintain the super quality. And doenjang is like this. Maintain the super quality. Otherwise, your husband will not eat. As Korean mothers. Now, ready-to-eat Korean dishes that can be easily enjoyed at home, such as bibimbap in the middle, and the tteokbokki somewhere. Spicy rice cakes have gained popularity. In London, the number of Korean restaurants have been rapidly increasing, and Korean-style hot dog, or we call it Myeongnang hot dog, corn dog. So many different applications. They are attracting enthusiastic customers. I think there should be Nobel Application Prize. Then perhaps Korea would get a lot of them. Now, Korean chimek is now globally known, of course, fried chicken and the beer, and the extra hot and spicy noodle, which call it 불닭 볶음면, is challenging but addictive. Be careful. So, this is really the last one. Now, in this room sit professors, students, future scholars, engineers, scientists, politicians, diplomats, entrepreneurs, journalists, artists, and hopefully many friends of Korea. The world you inherit is facing global challenges. Geopolitical tensions in Europe and Asia, climate crisis, and AI disruption, and more. But it is also full of extraordinary opportunities and possibilities. If we choose to build together Korea and Britain, we can be smarter, kinder, and bolder than we ever imagined. Korea and Britain are, as His Majesty King Charles III described, a shared superpower in art and technology based on our democracy, creativity, and innovation. Cambridge students, as I understand, think deeply, argue elegantly, and act decisively. So, I recommend to you to visit Korea if you have a chance to come to Asia. I used to send British students to Korea when I was a lecturer in politics in the University of Newcastle upon Tyne. I had 9 students in my politics and East Asian department. And I asked them, which country you want to spend 1 year? Out of 9, 5 said China. 4 said Japan. No one left. I was embarrassed and a little upset. So I told them, you have forgot Korea. What happened? And the student said, oh, my father told me to go to China because he's been doing business with China. He traveled China, but doesn't know much about Korea. Where is it? Is it somewhere in Korea? And then there was another student going to Japan. I said, why Japan? Oh, I love Japanese animation. I love ninja and everything. And I said, look, if you go to Korea, you can kill 3 birds with 1 stone because we are in the middle of China and Japan. So spend your time in Korea, and from time to time you visit China and Japan, and you may understand that Korea has the best culture. So I managed to persuade 3 out of 9 and send them to Korea. You know what? One of them got married to a Korean. I changed the life of this student. So he asked me to preside the wedding. So his parents have never been to Korea. Without the marriage of his son, they would never have come to Korea. They were such elegant parents with a nice gentleman's suit from the Savile Row in London, a nice hat, like an escort hat. They came to Korea. I preside the meeting. So I'm eternally responsible for these students. His name is Ian King. I call him Wang Sabang because his name is King. And one girl student got a job in a Korean movie company, and the other got a job in Ssangyong Automobile in London. So I changed their lives. And they told me, Professor Park, thank you very much for introducing us to Korea. We really appreciate that, really. It's not to downgrade other countries, but Korea is a country that you can appreciate, enjoy, and understand the Asian culture more than any other countries in the region, because we know them all. We know Chinese, we know Japanese, so that doesn't change. So if you have a chance to study in Asia, think very seriously about Korea. Now, Demis Hassabis, I think the Cambridge graduate, right? Demis Hassabis.
Yep.
I guess so. As a Nobel Prize winner last year in chemistry. This is a guy who defeated Isidore in 2016, in a room behind. Isidore was doing this go with the alternative player, but he was behind in the room to operate AlphaGo machine. And Hassabis, he gave an inspiring speech in Stockholm, Sweden, October last year. And the title is Dare to Dream of the Future. At the Nobel Prize award ceremony, he said, the scientific progress we celebrate today was made possible because someone, somewhere, once dared to dream of a different future. Artificial intelligence is no exception. To create what we've never imagined, we must embrace bold imagination, fearless curiosity, and the courage to explore the unknown. To the next generation, he emphasized that the future will be shaped by the boldness of your imagination. So I ask you to be bold, dream globally, and include Korea in your dreams. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for such a dynamic and informative and bold speech. We now have about 20 minutes for questions and answers. I'm sure there are lots of them. So who would like to ask the first question? Yes, in the front. And we've got a microphone.
안녕하세요. 저는 유클란에서 석사하는 마리아마라고 합니다. 오늘
반갑습니다.
강의 반갑습니다. 오늘 강의 감사합니다.
Very good Korean.
제 질문 영어로 할게요. 네. So hello, my name is Mariama. I'm from UCLan and I did my master's there in North Korean studies. But today my question is about concerning the AI. So as we are global partners in the advancements in the tech sphere, including AI, I was wondering, you mentioned the SMRs as potential solutions to the energy demands of the AI data centers. Oh, did I turn it off by accident? Sorry, to the AI data centers. And I was wondering what other policies and moves are being made so that we can continue to strive towards the net zero emissions in the future.
Okay. Shall I respond to it or no?
Two or three.
Okay.
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 At the very back. Yep. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for your really fascinating talk. I have a question about the sort of security and military cooperation between our two countries. So Europe in its own right, in the UK in its own right, and in its bilateral relations with various European powers, is moving towards establishing industrial strategies to develop a defence industrial base, largely because there's a hole that needs to be filled as the US withdraws from Europe. And you're seeing a return of industrial strategy by governments on a scale that you haven't really seen for several decades. And this is happening at pace in Europe at the moment. And there's an explicit target of developing this industrial base. And there is lots that you've spoken about a great deal of military, technological cooperation between our countries. And we, of course, have shared strategic interests in the Indo-Pacific. And what I'm wondering is whether there is the potential for, and the need for, a similar sort of shared economic strategy to develop such an industrial base that would see our countries developing that together, like we are seeing it across Europe at the moment.
Thank you, Dr. Park. Sorry, is it opening? Anyway. Thank you, Dr. Park. You really make me to want to visit Korea. It's a really outstanding speech. Yeah. But my question is still on the peace and security dimension. As you just stressed the importance to cooperation to deal with North Korea's nuclear and military threat towards the Asia-Pacific, Indo-Pacific, and also the Europe. But the point is, well, some people could have the ground to argue that maximize coercion or maximize kind of military posture is not the best solution. As we know, the Republic of Korea also, is adopted a kind of sunshine policy towards the north. But nowadays, so which kind of policy do you think is the best solution? One is to maximize the pressure, and in order to force the north to give up the nuclear and give up the kind of military threat towards its neighbors. The other is a kind of dialogue and humanitarian assistance, and also a peaceful approach towards its neighbors. And which one do you think is the most helpful way to address this threat?
Okay. Yeah. I can see the high quality of Cambridge University. There are three questions. About the SMR, the nuclear technology, obviously, I think this is the future of technology. Korea is very seriously developing it. We have our own model for SMRs. So is Britain making a lot of efforts to come out with a advanced technology. So naturally, we should jointly research on this important technology, especially in the era of revolutionary AI expansion, which requires huge energy supply, especially around the metropolitan area, where you cannot build huge nuclear power centers, but you need some efficient, very safe, and also economical means of power generation. I think that's SMR. So definitely this is a very promising area, and we need closer cooperation. The relationship between technology, industry, academia, and government, I think is very important. In the case of Korea, as I mentioned, the think tank and the universities like KAIST, DGIST, UNIST, Seoul National University, Yonsei, Korea University, and Posttech, they are all eager to make maximum efforts to make advanced technological research, not just on their own, but through multilateral joint research cooperation domestically and internationally. The Cambridge University is obviously one of the best choices that they can make, plus government strategic support in terms of the strategy. The Korean government now aims to become G3 in AI, say next to, say, US and China. Sorry, Great Britain, but we can be joint G3 together and probably receive Nobel Prize in AI. Why not together? So that's the aim that Korea has now. And we know that China is making great rapid progress in the AI technology. You saw DeepSeek, which came out in January this year, surprised the whole world in such a economical way of creating the AI foundation model, as good as, say, OpenAI, made by Sam Altman, this Mr. Liang Wenfeng, who has never been to overseas and never studied abroad, somehow did it. So we need to make a very strategic, well-designed cooperation between industry, technology, government, and academia to create advanced technological achievement. And I think Korea and UK should really double down on such research cooperation together. The third one, North Korea policy, I don't think we have a magic solution. On the one hand, we want to make sure that North Korea's security threat and the missile proliferation and nuclear weapons cannot be tolerated. That's why we are demanding denuclearization of North Korea. And President Trump, although he calls North Korea a nuclear power, he actually recognized that it is very important to have a denuclearization of North Korea, to the Japanese Prime Minister and to our own Prime Minister, acting President of Korea. So in the long term or medium term, denuclearization is a fundamental direction we are going. In the middle, what kind of roadmap we can prepare in order to persuade North Korea to stop the proliferation and come back to the dialogue table and denuclearize, and in return get support from outside through, say, inter-Korean economic partnership or cooperation or investment. I think that depends on North Korea's decision. This government proposed audacious initiative to the North. We would not allow or tolerate North Korea's nuclear proliferation, but if they want to, if they decide to go nuclear, denuclearization, then we would be ready to provide a huge support for the North Korean failing economy, like kind of mini Marshall Plan for North Korea. That requires audacious decision by Pyongyang. But unfortunately, they haven't made that decision yet. But I hope that with UK, Korea, United States, and other democratic countries in the world. We send the same message to the North that they can actually change their future based on their own decision. We are providing them with opportunity. We are not just trying to pressurize or to punish North Korea, but we want to give them an opportunity. I think that's the approach that we are taking. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm Brendan Sind. I'm the director of the Centre for Geopolitics. Thank you for your excellent lecture, which I found not only very informative, but actually very invigorating as well. But my question is to do with the connection between the European and the East Asian theatres, which you touched on a few times. And I found persuasive your suggestion that obviously we should be very worried about the dispatch of North Korean troops to Ukraine, or at least in the first instance to Kursk. My question is, given that connection and given the importance of deterring in both theatres, what is Korea doing at the moment to support Ukraine, and what more do you think it could and should do?
Thank you. Professor, by the way, congratulations on the Center for Geopolitics. Very important, and also focus on Indo-Pacific strategy. Now, as I mentioned, the Ukraine war has ironically made the security relationship between Europe and Asia closer. Korea is not a member of NATO. We are not a European country, but we are a global partner of NATO. So Korean leader, president attends the NATO summit. I was in Madrid, Spain in 2022 or in June when Sweden and Finland applied for membership. There was the first Korean president's attendance in the NATO summit. We have decided to utilize individually tailored partnership program, which we call ITPP with the NATO countries in 4 areas: support for Ukraine in the war, technology, hybrid, and cyber space. So these areas are the areas where Korea can contribute to the European security and vice versa. Now, I mentioned Korea, US, Japan, trilateral security cooperation in order to maintain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific and to meet the challenges of North Korea together. It's not just that. We are a very active working partner of AUKUS, US, UK, and Australia in the region. We have 2+2 with all these countries. We have 2+2 foreign and defense ministers meeting with US, foreign and defense minister meeting with UK, and also AUKUS. So in fact, even though Korea is not a member of the AUKUS, we are de facto partner of AUKUS, which I call it K plus AUKUS means caucus. That's my interpretation. And the Quad. Korea is not a member of the Quad, US, Japan, India, and Australia, but we have all close strategic dialogue with all these countries. With India, we have CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which is like the FTA. So we have FTA with India, and we have a strategic dialogue with India. I myself visited India several times to talk with my counterpart and to discuss bilateral strategic partnership. So Korea is widely reaching out to the European countries in order to maintain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. And the British physical presence of your aircraft carrier, like the Prince of Wales, which has started its voyage already for 8 months, coming all the way through Mediterranean to Asia and the Indo-Pacific, is an excellent example of the visible commitment, security commitment by Great Britain in the Indo-Pacific Ocean. So I hope it can have a successful visit to the area in sometime in October or November, I think, 8 months' time. So that's my answer to your question. And congratulations on the Geopolitics Research Center.
Thank you very much.
Can we get the mic to you if possible?
For this presentation, which I find fascinating, with a lot of new insights. You spoke very vividly about the opportunities and the risks from AI. This week, the British government has just laid before Parliament new legislation to protect children from online misconduct or online looseness by major data powers, data companies. I think we all face challenges in trying to protect our own societies from the new power of data companies. But we also, and I don't want to lead you into too delicate territory at this stage of the morning, but we face a challenge where most of these companies come from a country which sees any attempt elsewhere to control them as an attack on that country, which puts us all in a very delicate position. And I suspect Korea is in exactly the same position as us. Have you any comments on how we can wiggle our way through that minefield?
I know what you mean. There are potential dangers, potential challenges, and potential aggressions through the AI in many different ways. We have to be very careful in dealing with that. We have to be prepared for any potential cyber attacks through AI-laden machineries. So that is the reason why Korea has actively hosted the RE-AIM, responsible use of AI, in the military domain, but it's not just the military domain, but in everyday life. We have come out with a blueprint for action last year. The first year was call for action, but it's a blueprint for action, which has that aspects of cyber protection against the AI initiated attack, disinformation, deepfake, everything that would destroy our democracy. So I think we should make joint efforts together to meet the challenges, especially between Korea and the UK. And thank you for your question. I appreciate your service to Korea and Britain relationship when you were in Seoul. Thank you.
Yes, just run it back near the cameras. Yeah. I'm going to get the microphone to you.
Hi, my name is Yuri Jen. I study material science right now, and I consider myself really patriotic. I love my country, but I have two things that make me reluctant to go back to Korea after finishing my PhD. First is that the previous government has been downsized the government subsidized for the researchers and the senior professors. So that's the first one. And the second one is that I'm questioning if Korea is going to exist in 50 years later, in terms of low a birth rate. So I want to know if we do have a practical solutions for those two things.
Okay. Yeah. This becomes like a hearing session in the National Assembly. Yeah. Okay. What the two excellent questions. But please go back to Korea, by the way, because Korea has a great future. Crisis makes us stronger, and we learn lessons very quickly. On the first question, the research and development, the distribution of the funding for scientists, I think is very important. Korea is a country with a high quality of scientists and researchers. In fact, our ratio of researchers per population is, I think, almost #1 in the world. So we have so many good elite scientists and researchers who may have not realized their potential in Korea. So many people go overseas, like Britain. You come to Cambridge University and learn the state-of-the-art technology, and perhaps you may want to contribute to your own country back in Korea, but the environment is not that favorable. So I met with many Korean researchers abroad. I went to Germany and I met with people in the Max Planck Institute. I was here in London and met people in the Royal Society and also in Sweden, the Institute of Technology. So we learn the lessons and we try to upgrade Korea's science and technology infrastructure by providing strategic funding to the difficult research, which I think is very important because I know that many Korean research and scientists report are all very successful, like 80% or 90% successful, but that doesn't mean we can make a breakthrough in a discovery or the fundamental scientific revolution to be able to, say, receive Nobel Prize in science and technology. I think in order to do that, we need to change our research culture. We have to provide a very timely and also very appropriate funding, not a short time, but a medium and long-term funding, to make sure that there is a research autonomy for the scientists and researchers. And you have to include a risk-taking culture in science and technology. In the university where I'm teaching, KAIST, you have an office called Office of Ambitious Failures. I think this is a fascinating office, yeah. But at first, I was reluctant to go into the Office of Failures. But I think we need that. So Korea needs to change. Research autonomy, research funding for the long term, not the short term, and then risk-taking, and the infrastructure we have to make. So we need to innovate our own research culture. Low birth rate, serious problem. Yeah. This is not just one reason, but multiple reasons why people don't marry. And even if you marry, why not children? Because it's difficult. It's very costly economically, and really no time. Both parents have to work. So it requires the whole nation to help change, improve the lowest birth rate. Fortunately, we are seeing a rebound now. We used to be like 0.7% last year. This year is slightly up, like 0.72, 73%. The government examined the successful cases in other countries, like Hungary, France, and other countries. We went there, we sat down, and we tried to find out what's the solution, but there was no one solution. The whole nation should support the young people, men and women, married or not married, in order to have the ability to help children and support. So I think the government is very well aware of it, and we try to learn the lessons from other successful countries, so we may rebound and Korean population will increase. So please come back to Korea. Thank you.
I think we can just take one final question. So, I hope it's good.
Yeah, thank you very much and good afternoon. My name is Callum Stewart. I work for the UK Ministry of Defence as the Defence and Security Policy Lead for the Republic of Korea. And I want to welcome your comments regarding the carrier strike group this year. We're very much looking forward to visiting Busan and hopefully making the engagement this year as successful as the one that you attended in 2021. Building off this, I was wondering whether you had any reflections on the future of Korea, Republic of Korea's maritime industrial policy. I know in the previous DPP administration there was considerations of building their own aircraft carrier, and as the importance of global supply chain shows, the freedom of navigation, the enforcement of UN Security Council resolutions on DPRK, do you believe there is an opportunity, and if so, how could the UK and Republic of Korea work closer together in the maritime domain to grow and make their own contributions to global security?
Thank you very much for your question. As a former Navy officer, I appreciate I think we have a world-class industrial competitiveness in shipbuilding area. President Donald Trump called Korean counterpart, our president, and said, Korea can help our shipbuilding industry, which has been declining for so long, being outpaced by the Chinese Navy ships in the Indo-Pacific. The US has, I think, less than 300 Navy ships, whereas China has 370, it's going 400. So if these trends continue, then US will lag behind the in terms of number of the ships. So Korea can provide that support to the US. Yeah. Now, in the area of MRO, maintenance, repair, and operation, we can certainly do it. There is no barriers in doing it. But when Korea wants to manufacture US Navy ships, then there's a legal barrier called the Jones Act, which has been actually trying to protect the American shipbuilding industry. But in the course of overprotecting it, it has weakened the American shipbuilding industry. So we will be ready to support US shipbuilding in the future, not just MRO, but manufacturing of the US Navy ships. Now, as a former Navy officer, obviously I want Korea to have as many more ships as possible. But I think that if I am asked to choose one area of Navy shipbuilding, I think it's submarines. We would perhaps would like to have a submarine that can stay underwater for a long time to monitor and detect and protect our territory and our maritime sphere of influence. Perhaps we need a nuclear-powered submarine like the one that Australia is going to get through the AUKUS framework. Why not Korea? So that we can protect our country much more efficiently and effectively. So UK has the technology, and Korea has many possibilities for more contribution to the Indo-Pacific security and stability. So we should work closely together. Thank you.
Dr. Park, I'm afraid we are out of time. But let me thank you very warmly for what has been a really fascinating and also very detailed speech, and particularly in terms of your response to these challenging questions. It does, I think, demonstrate just how much our two countries are able to cooperate with one another and how many new opportunities exist in the future. We will have an opportunity to mingle over coffee. The sun has come out, I think, outside, so do join us if you have time for coffee and if you want to meet the other guests. Let me also say that the Korea Foundation has kindly provided some very helpful information on what they do. So if you're a student and hoping to go to Korea, whether or not you're planning to get married or not is another question. But I don't think that will be included in the brochure, but there will be lots of useful practical information. All that remains is to say again, a very warm thank you for what has been a fascinating presentation, and to thank you, the audience, for your questions. Thank you.